Hi, this is Mr. Warski, and this is the second screencast of invertebrates. And we left off the other screencast with this slide here about respiration. So if you didn't get it before, now might be the time to do that. Hit pause if you need to. So this is respiration. So spiders use book lungs. The sponge uses the inflow here, so they have these little flagellated cells called choanocytes. They move the water out of this little hole opening, which is called an osculum. You'll get into that more later. Water comes in and out, and as it comes in, oxygen will move through the cells by diffusion. Caterpillars and all insects have these spiracles, which are the holes on the outside, and the holes lead to tubes, the tracheal tubes, which take the oxygen to the cells. Gills, I know this is a fish, which is a vertebrate, but gills are found also in invertebrates. Circulation, how nutrients are carried around the body. Well, some organisms have no circulatory system, like cnidarians, platyhelminthes, and nematodes. In fact, they just allow the nutrients and everything just to diffuse into the cells directly. Amoebocytes are found in porifera. Now, these are cells that move in amoeboid-like fashion with the pseudopods and carry nutrients from cell to cell. There are two other types of circulation called open circulatory system and closed circulatory system, and they use hearts. So in open, there are no blood vessels that carry the blood from cell to cell. Instead, the heart pumps the blood into cavities, which are known as sinuses. The tissues are bathed directly by the blood, and the blood has a different name called hemolymph. Closed circulatory systems means that the heart pumps the blood through blood vessels, and the blood doesn't touch the tissue at all. Instead, the nutrients and wastes move by diffusion into and out of the cells in the blood. Now, echinoderms don't have an open or closed. They have a fluid-filled cavity, and the ciliated cells move the fluid around the coelom, and the fluid carries the nutrients around from cell to cell and picks up the waste. Open and closed, we have the earthworm actually is the first organism to have a closed circulatory system, whereas the other organisms have open. So we have a heart that pumps it to these open spaces, and the tissue pumps the hemolymph to the open spaces, and it bathes the tissues directly, whereas these have blood vessels. And the blood vessels branch into smaller blood vessels, and you have diffusion of nutrients and wastes back and forth from the cell to the blood. Excretion, you need to get rid of metabolic waste. The nitrogenous wastes are toxic. You need to get rid of those. So how do you get rid of them? Is by excretion. So the different excretory systems are one, none. That's not really a system, right? So the nitrogenous wastes are removed by diffusion. Good. The first structure that was geared towards removing the nitrogenous waste are flame cells, and they are found in platyhelminthes. These are cells that have tufts of cilia, and what they do is they move the nitrogen out of the body into the environment, and that's what the flame cells do. Now, nephridia actually are found in annelids, earthworms, and that they do is they pull the nitrogenous wastes from the blood and dump it outside. Now, there are usually 2 nephridia per segment in segmented worms. Green glands and Malpighian tubules are found in arthropods that pretty much do the same thing. They filter the hemolymph, get rid of the nitrogenous waste. They will dump the nitrogenous waste into the digestive system so it can be excreted out of the rear end of the arthropod. Hopefully you got all that down. If not, listen to it again, hit pause. So we have different things for the platyhelminthes. This is the flame cells are here. And what they do is they kick the things out, this picture right here, kick the things out by the cilia into the environment. The nephridia are connected to nephridia spores or pores. And what they do, nephritiopores, and the nitrogenous wastes are filtered from the blood and out of the pores. The Ants have a Malpighian tubules right here, which filters the blood, dumps it into the digestive system and out of the rear end. And the same thing goes with the green gland for other arthropods. Yes, we do have kidneys. I won't talk about those. We talk about the excretory system. Nervous system. These are tissues that can organize a response. So what types of nervous systems do we have? From none in porifera. Sponges have no sense of, I guess, pain or touch or anything. The cnidarians have a simple nerve net. Nerves are connected to each other. They can respond, but they really can't process the information. Now, when you have bilateral symmetry, you have something known as cephalization, or the formation of a head. And in the head, you concentrate nerves. Now, if you have a collection of nerves, that is called a ganglion. It's not a brain. A brain has specialized parts. A ganglion is a collection of nerves which is unspecialized. And we do have ganglion in our body, too. With ganglion, you have main nerve cords, which is usually a dorsal, which goes down the back, and a ventral, which goes down the front. Now, with ganglion, you have senses like sight, hearing, touch, taste, and smell. Reproduction. All have sexual reproduction. Some organisms are asexual, like porifera, which can reproduce by fragmentation. Platyhelminthes, if you split the platyhelminthes and keep part of the head, you can have two platyhelminthes. But most of the time, these things focus on sex, where you have the egg, the larva, the pupa, and the adult, which lays the egg, which hatches to form a larva, which is a feeding youngster. So all they do is eat and grow, and then they pupate, they go through their change, sometimes in private, when they have a little chrysalis or some type of cocoon, and then they will become an adult after they metamorphosize. Locomotion, how do they move? Some don't. So porifera, they do not move. They're stuck in one place. Parasites like tapeworms, they really don't move. They move with the host because the host moves. Some have muscles with structures. For example, earthworms have these bristle-like things on the bottom of them called setae, which grab the soil and that allows them to move the contractor muscles and relaxer muscles to move with the setae. Some have wings, some have feet, legs. The echinoderms have tube feet. Some have a siphon like the octopus. There's like a jet propulsion. They suck in the water one place and they shoot it out like a jet in another place, and that's a siphon. So what we're going to do is go over, and you're going to find information about the different phyla. I'm going to help you out with two of them. And we're going to be able to use simple words because we've already discussed all these things before. So for example, the phylum Porifera, it is a diploblast with radial symmetry. So you know the body layers, right? And it's how the body is arranged. There are four classes. That's not really important for this explanation. The digestion, they are filter feeders. They have choanocytes. They create a current, move the water through an osculum, which is the hole at the top. As the water moves through, food is brought in and filtered out of the water. They respire by diffusion. They excrete by diffusion. Their locomotion, their sessile means they do not move. They have support in the form of spicules, not spiracles, but spicules. Those are calcium skeletal parts. In fact, that's how they're classified by their classes, by the type of spicule they have. Circulation, they have amoebocytes that carry food around from cell to cell. They have no nervous system. Their importance, they're sold for money. They're part of the food chain. They filter things out, and they reproduce. They can do it through fragmentation, where they have sexual reproduction with these gemmules, which are kind of like sperm and egg. They're released into the water. Two gemmules form a zygote, which would be therefore a young sponge. So you're going to have to get that down. Hit pause. Have fun. The next phylum is Cnidaria. Again, that's diploblast. Radial symmetry. There are three classes: Scyphozoa, Anthozoa, Hydrozoa. You'll need to have an example of each Locomotion muscles, and they can tumble. Hydrozoa, they can actually do cartwheels. Kind of cool to think about it. Respiration, diffusion, excretion, diffusion, circulation, they have none. The digestion, they have a gastrovascular cavity, which is a one opening with a two-way flow, and they're really sloppy eaters. So that's how the outer cells get nutrients. They feed with these structures called nematocysts, which are stinging cells, are little harpoons at the end of their tentacles. That's what causes pain when jellyfish sting you. That's sea anemones. That's how they catch their fish. So they sting, and it's a little neurotoxin, which can be bad. And then they shove it into their mouth, and that's how they feed. Support coral, which is anthozoa. They have calcium carbonate, but pretty much they don't have any support other than that. They have a simple nerve net. Importance, they're sold as food. They're sold, they're food. In China, they love to eat jellyfish. My daughter ate some jellyfish. It was tough, I guess. Oh my gosh, we could talk about it in class, but I didn't think she was going to make it. Reproduction, sexual, gametes are flooded into the water. The egg and sperm join. You have little baby cnidarian. So we talked about triploblasts before. This is just a review of triploblasts. You have acoelomates, pseudocoelomates. Acoelomates have no body space. Platyhelminthes are acoelomates. Pseudocoelomates, there's a cavity filled with fluid but is not lined with mesoderm. Nematodes are pseudocoelomates. Then we have coelomates, which have a body cavity lined with mesoderm. Two types of coelomates, protostomes and deuterostomes. We did talk about this. The reason I talk about this is because we're getting into triploblasts, and that's what platyhelminthes, the flatworms, they are triploblasts. They are triploblasts, they are acoelomates, so they have no space. Bilateral symmetry, they have to be since they're triploblasts. Trematoda, tubularia, cestota, those are the three classes. Locomotion, planaria, they use cilia or slime. Parasitics, like in Trematoda and Cestota, they don't move. Tapeworms hold on with a structure known as a scolex, a series of hooks that bind or attach to your intestines. Respiration, diffusion, excretion, planaria have flame cells, others by diffusion. Circulation, they have none. A digestion, GVC. The parasitic ones, they just really absorb their nutrients, like tapeworms. They just suck in their nutrients from the intestinal tract of their host. Reproduction, sexual. Now, believe it or not, tapeworms, each section of a tapeworm is called a proglottid, and each section is hermaphroditic, so they can actually fertilize themselves. And when the organism goes to the bathroom, when it comes out in solid waste, their feces, proglottids will rip off and go along with the feces, self-fertilize, lay their eggs, and the eggs will end up in the ground, and some type of animal will come up and eat the eggs eventually and take it in, and they will have a baby tapeworm. Support, they have none. They have muscles. Nervous system, they are the first bilateral animal, so they have a ganglion, cephalization with two nerve cords, and the importance of some of these are parasitic. Hit pause if you need to. So we're going to stop there and finish this up with the next screencast. Have a good night.